The house of Obed-Edom the Gittite received the ark of God without seeking for it. For 3 months that the ark stayed there, there was a great blessing in the family of this Gittite. That is what revival does. Even those not connected to it get blessed when they come into contact with it. When finally David found the answer to the problem, he set out to bring the ark of God by the means ordained by God. He prepared a place for the ark of God. That is chapter 15, verse 1. David was not ashamed to abandon the new method which had caused Uzziah's death. He commanded, "None ought to carry the ark of God but the Levites, for them the Lord had chosen to carry the ark." That is in verse 2. The rest of the chapter is a beautiful sight. The chiefs and their tribes arrayed, the singers, all Israel witnessed a return to the old-fashioned revival, as ordained by God. And the Levites bear the ark of God upon their shoulders with the staves thereon, as Moses commanded, according to the word of the Lord. That is verse 15. And it came to pass, when God had helped the Levites that bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord. That is in verse 26. Notice the new method of the oxen-drawn cart did not need the help of God, because they had it all figured out how it would precisely work. And when it did not work, they did not seek God's help. That's the way of man since the Garden of Eden. They always make a covering for their nakedness. These Levites carrying the ark needed God's help. It was on their shoulders, not in their heads. Headwork alone lacks responsibility. The reason for great ministries which have little or no attachment to the people they minister to is the same as David's day. Head plans, but not heart feelings at all. A well-known evangelist does not shake hands with ordinary Africans because he does not want to be demonized by them. Many Africans have adopted the superior mentality against their own people, but in USA and Europe they mix easily. He drops out of sight as soon as he finishes his message. He has no burden for them. The vehicle is secure and is driven by chosen men who keep steadying it. He does not need God's help. Although the Corinthian church was by far the most spiritual in Paul's ministry, and that all gifts operated there. 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 7. He wrote to them with this urgency: "Examine yourselves whether you are in the faith." 2 Corinthians 13 verse 5. A self-re-examination will lead to an honest conclusion, a return to the old paths where the good way is. Jeremiah chapter 6 verse 16. When David and Israel finally brought the ark home by God's method, with the music, the dancing, the shouting, and singing, there was this woman, Michal, Saul's daughter. who had been brought up with a dignified, stiff composure that disapproved any emotions, or what we hear some call the flesh, watched through the window as the happy procession came in, with her husband David in the front leading the dance. She despised David in her heart. Verse 29. God saw it, and she became barren from there on. We may have a form of revival, but is it God glorifying, or is man the center of attraction? Are our means and ways superior to those of God? Preparation is essential, a must. We hear this said all the time. It won't last, it is not real, just one of those fates, etc. But God says His presence will be with us perpetually, and His ear will attend to our prayers. The Lord Jesus promised to be with His own always. Matthew 28:20. Can revival continue? We must discuss it at length after this preparation. Preparation for the move of God is essential. God's method must be sought, not to supplement ours, but to be supreme above everything we have seen success in the past. We must be willing under God to bow and confess that we have been wrong all along if our past successes come short of God's standard. David was humble enough to do so. God blessed him and all Israel. We must never be deceived with our past track record. If God's light exposes our shortcomings of the past, no matter what record we may have had, it must be abandoned. Aaron's two sons were ordained to serve God, but one day they offered strange fire. They died. Numbers 3 verse 4. No matter how successful they had been in the past, God did not approve of this rebellion. Thus, prayer, consecration, confession of sin must be made before revival comes. We may be caught up in the problem of blessing. We may not be able to handle it. It may be like the prodigal son in Luke chapter 15. He got too much too soon. We know